Steve Harvey had been hosting Family Feud for more than a decade. He had seen families argue over answers, celebrate with tears of joy, and share moments that touched the hearts of millions. But in all those years, in all those thousands of episodes, nothing could have prepared him for what was about to happen on a quiet Monday afternoon in April 2024. Because on that day, in front of a packed studio audience and millions of viewers at home, a wife was about to expose her husband's deepest secret on national television. And when the truth came out, Steve Harvey, the man who always has something to say, froze. He stood completely still, mouth open, unable to speak, because what he had just witnessed was not a game show moment. It was the unraveling of a marriage in real time. If you think you have seen every shocking Family Feud moment, I promise you, this one will leave you speechless. What started as a simple game show question turned into one of the most jaw-dropping confrontations in television history. Before we get into this unbelievable story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you never miss stories like this one. Now let me take you inside that studio and show you exactly what happened. The Robinson family from Memphis, Tennessee, had been selected to appear on Family Feud after a long and competitive application process. There were 5 of them standing under those bright studio lights. At the center of the family was 51-year-old Denise Robinson, a woman who commanded quiet respect just by standing in a room. She was a registered nurse who had worked the night shift at Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare for 22 years. She was the kind of nurse who remembered every patient's name, who held the hands of the dying when their own families could not be there, and who never once called in sick because she believed the people in those hospital beds needed her more than her own couch did. Standing next to Denise was her husband, 54-year-old Raymond Robinson. Raymond was an accountant at a mid-sized logistics company. He was well-spoken, well-dressed, and had the kind of smooth confidence that made people trust him immediately. Raymond handled all the family finances. He insisted on it. He said it was because he was the numbers guy, and Denise, who was exhausted from 12-hour overnight shifts, was happy to let him manage that part of their lives. She trusted him completely. After all, they had been married for 26 years. They had built a life together. They had a home. They had children. She had no reason to doubt him. Their 3 children stood with them on the stage. There was Brandon, 25, the oldest, who worked in IT and still lived at home to save money for his own place. Then there was Tiffany, 23, who was in her 2nd year of law school. And the youngest was Andre, 19, a freshman at the University of Memphis on a partial academic scholarship. All 3 of them were smart, hardworking, and devoted to their mother, who had sacrificed sleep, health, and personal time for decades to make sure they had everything they needed. Now, here is the part of the story that nobody in that studio knew yet, the part that would soon come crashing into the open like a wave that had been building for years. Denise had recently discovered something. 3 weeks before the Family Feud taping, she had been looking for their home insurance policy in Raymond's office at home. She needed the policy number for a water damage claim. While going through his desk, she found a bank statement, but it was not for any account she recognized. It was a savings account at a completely different bank from the one they used together, and it had over $340,000 in it. Denise's hands had trembled as she read that statement. $340,000, hidden for years. While she had been working double shifts to help pay for Brandon's car, Tiffany's law school tuition, and Andre's college expenses. While she had been clipping coupons and driving a 12-year-old Honda because Raymond said they could not afford a new car. While she had been told that they needed to tighten their budget and that a family vacation was out of the question this year. All that time, Raymond had been quietly stashing away money in an account she did not know existed. Denise did not confront Raymond immediately. She made copies of the statement. She did research. She found records going back 7 years. She discovered that Raymond had been diverting a portion of his salary, his bonuses, and even some of the tax refunds that she thought had gone to their joint account into this secret fund. She was devastated, but more than that, she was angry, not a hot, explosive anger. A cold, focused, patient anger. The kind of anger that waits for the perfect moment. And as fate would have it, that perfect moment came in the form of 5 questions on a game show stage. The taping began like any other episode. The Robinson family was matched against the Carter family from Atlanta. Steve Harvey came out, the audience cheered, and the game started rolling. The first 2 rounds were normal. Plenty of laughs, good answers, typical Family Feud energy. The Robinson family was doing well. Denise was charming the audience with her warm smile and quick wit. Raymond was answering confidently, playing the role of the proud family man. Their children were having a great time. Then came the question that would change everything. Steve stood at the podium, read his card, and asked, "Name something a husband might be hiding from his wife." The audience laughed. It was a classic Family Feud question, the kind designed to get funny answers and playful bickering between couples. Steve even gave the camera a little smirk, expecting the usual entertainment. Denise hit the buzzer first. She beat the Carter family by a fraction of a second. Steve turned to her with a grin. "All right, Denise, name something a husband might be hiding from his wife." The studio was loose and relaxed, expecting a funny answer. Maybe she would say a purchase or junk food or a phone number, something light, something playful. Denise looked directly at Raymond, not at Steve, not at the board, at her husband. And with a voice that was calm, controlled, and absolutely lethal, she said, "A secret bank account with $340,000 in it." The studio did not gasp. Gasping would have implied that people processed what they heard quickly enough to react. Instead, there was a moment of complete, total, suffocating silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Steve Harvey's face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, processing, realization, shock. And then nothing, he just froze. His mouth fell open. His eyes went wide. He stood completely motionless behind that podium like someone had pressed pause on him. The audience was frozen too. Nobody laughed, nobody clapped, nobody made a sound. The camera cut to Raymond. And what it captured was the face of a man whose entire world had just collapsed on live television. The color drained from his face. His confident posture crumbled. His mouth opened and closed like he was trying to form words, but nothing came out. He looked like a man standing in an open field watching a tornado come straight for him with nowhere to run. The Robinson children looked confused at first. Brandon turned to his father with a furrowed brow. "What is she talking about, Dad?" Raymond did not answer. He could not answer. Tiffany, the future lawyer, read her father's expression instantly. Her face hardened. Andre, the youngest, just looked back and forth between his parents, trying to understand what was unraveling in front of him. Steve Harvey finally unfroze. He blinked several times, looked down at his card, looked back at Denise, and said very slowly, "I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?" Denise did not flinch. "I said a secret bank account. My husband has been hiding $340,000 from our family for 7 years, while I work double shifts at the hospital. While our daughter takes out loans for law school, while our youngest scrambles for scholarships." She paused and turned to Raymond. "While you tell me we can't afford a family vacation." The audience erupted, not in applause, in raw, unfiltered shock. People were covering their mouths. People were shaking their heads. Someone in the front row said, loud enough for the microphones to pick up, "Oh my God." The Carter family on the opposite side of the stage stood completely still, looking like they had accidentally walked into someone else's crisis and were not sure whether to stay or slowly back away. Steve Harvey set his cards down. He rubbed his hand over his face. He let out a long breath. And then he did something that Steve Harvey almost never does. He was quiet. He did not crack a joke. He did not try to lighten the mood. He just stood there, giving the moment the gravity it deserved. Because he understood, as a man who had been through his own marital struggles, that what was happening on his stage was not entertainment. It was a reckoning. Raymond finally found his voice. "Denise, this is not the place for this. We can talk about this at home." His voice was tight, controlled, trying desperately to contain the situation. Denise shook her head slowly. "We have been at home for 26 years, Raymond, and at home you control everything, the money, the conversations, the narrative. Today, on this stage, in front of all these people, I get to tell the truth, because I am tired of being the only one who does not know what is going on in my own marriage." Steve stepped in gently. "Raymond," he said, his voice low and serious, "is what she is saying true? Do you have a bank account your wife does not know about?" Raymond looked at the floor. He looked at the ceiling. He looked everywhere except at Steve Harvey and Denise Robinson. The silence was his answer. "How long?" Steve asked. Raymond's voice came out as barely a whisper. 7 years." The audience groaned. 7 years of deception. 7 years of hidden money. 7 years of watching his wife exhaust herself with double shifts while he sat on a fortune she did not know existed. What happened next was something no one in that studio expected. Tiffany, the 23-year-old law student, stepped forward. Her voice was shaking, but it was clear. "Dad, I have $87,000 in student loans." $87,000. "Mom picks up extra shifts so she can send me money every month for rent because you said we could not afford to help more. And you have been sitting on $340,000. The words landed like hammer blows. Raymond flinched visibly with each sentence. Brandon spoke next. "I live at home, Dad. I am 25 years old and I live at home because you told me we did not have enough to help me with a down payment on an apartment. I believed you. I stayed to save money and help the family, and this whole time you had enough to change all of our lives." Andre, the youngest, did not say anything. He just looked at his father with tears streaming down his face. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Steve Harvey walked to the center of the stage. The game was effectively over. Nobody cared about the score anymore. Nobody cared about the prize money. This was bigger than Family Feud. This was a family standing at a crossroads on national television. Steve looked at Raymond with an expression that was not angry. It was something worse for Raymond. It was disappointed. "Raymond," Steve said, "I am going to tell you something, and I need you to hear me. I am not going to stand up here and destroy you. Life is going to take care of that on its own if you do not make this right, but I need you to understand something. That woman right there," he pointed at Denise. "She has been pouring her life into your family, night shifts, double shifts, holidays, weekends. She has been emptying herself out for 26 years so that your children could have a future. And while she was doing that, you were filling up a secret account. That is not financial planning. That is betrayal." The audience was on their feet, not cheering, just standing, bearing witness. Some were crying, some were nodding. Every person in that room was feeling the weight of what was happening. Steve turned to Denise. "Denise, I need to say something to you. You are one of the bravest people I have ever seen stand on this stage. What you just did took more courage than most people have in their entire lives. You did not scream. You did not throw things. You stood here with dignity and told the truth. That is strength. That is real strength." Denise nodded, her composure finally cracking just slightly. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Mr. Harvey, I love my husband. I have loved him for 26 years, but love without trust is just a habit, and I refuse to spend the rest of my life living a lie. My children deserve better. I deserve better." The audience broke into the loudest applause of the entire taping. People were sobbing openly. The camera operators were struggling to keep their shots steady because even the crew was emotional. Steve looked at Raymond one final time. "Sir, you have a choice to make, not today, not on this stage, but when you go home tonight and it is quiet and the cameras are gone and it is just you and the truth, you need to decide what kind of man you are going to be from this point forward. Because right now your wife just showed the world who she is. The question is whether you are willing to match that honesty." Raymond stood there for a long moment. The cameras caught everything, the trembling in his hands, the redness in his eyes. The way his shoulders finally dropped, like a man who had been carrying a lie for so long that letting it go physically changed his posture. "Denise," he said, his voice raw and broken, "I am sorry. I have no excuse. I was scared. I was selfish. I told myself I was protecting the family, building a safety net, but the truth is I was protecting myself, and I hurt the people I love the most in the process. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I am asking for it anyway." Denise looked at him. She did not rush to him. She did not say it was okay, because it was not okay. Not yet. Instead, she said something that would become one of the most quoted lines in Family Feud history. "I do not forgive you yet, Raymond, but I am willing to try, and that is more than you deserve." Steve Harvey, visibly moved, made a decision. He told the producers that the Robinson family would continue playing the game with or without Raymond at the podium. Denise chose to keep playing. She said she had come there to win, and she was not leaving without finishing what she started. Raymond quietly stepped back and let his wife and children take center stage. The Robinson family won the game and advanced to fast money. Denise and Tiffany played fast money together. They scored 194 points, winning the $20,000 prize. When the final number lit up, the family erupted. Denise grabbed Tiffany and held her tight. Brandon and Andre rushed in. For a moment, it was just a mother and her children celebrating together. Raymond watched from the side of the stage, tears running down his face, understanding for the first time what it looked like when his family succeeded without him in the center. Steve made an announcement after the game. He said that his foundation would be connecting Tiffany Robinson with a legal scholarship fund that could help reduce her student loan burden. The audience cheered. Then he turned to Denise and said something that carried weight far beyond the studio. "Denise, you came here today carrying a secret that was eating you alive. You could have handled this privately, but you chose to tell the truth. And because of that truth, your family has a chance to start over on honest ground. That money in that account is not just dollars. It is trust that needs to be rebuilt. I hope Raymond understands that." When the episode aired 3 weeks later, it became one of the most talked about moments in Family Feud history. The clip of Denise's answer went viral within hours, accumulating over 75 million views across platforms in the first week alone. News outlets from coast to coast covered the story. Financial experts used it as a case study for discussions about financial infidelity in marriages. Marriage counselors referenced it in sessions. The phrase "love without trust is just a habit" trended globally for 5 days and was printed on merchandise, shared in sermon illustrations, and quoted in newspaper editorials. The impact on the Robinson family was seismic but ultimately redemptive. Denise and Raymond entered intensive marriage counseling the week after the taping. Raymond opened his secret account to Denise and their financial advisor for full transparency. Together, they used a significant portion of the funds to pay off Tiffany's student loans in full. They helped Brandon with a down payment on his first apartment. They established a college fund for Andre. And they donated $25,000 to the hospital where Denise worked, earmarking it for the nursing staff break room renovation that the hospital had been promising for years but never funded. The transformation in their marriage was not instant. Denise was clear about that in every interview she gave. Trust, she said, is not something you rebuild with a single apology. It is rebuilt one honest conversation at a time, one transparent decision at a time, one day at a time. But Raymond showed up. He opened every financial record. He gave Denise equal access to every account. He attended every counseling session. He started writing her weekly letters, a practice their therapist had recommended, where he reflected honestly on the ways he had failed and the steps he was taking to do better. 6 months after the episode aired, Family Feud did a follow-up segment. Steve Harvey invited the Robinson family back to the studio. This time, the energy was different. It was lighter, warmer, not perfect, but hopeful. Denise looked rested for the first time in years. She told Steve that she had cut back to regular shifts at the hospital now that the family's financial situation was out in the open and properly managed. Tiffany reported that she was thriving in law school, debt-free for the first time, and focused entirely on her studies. Brandon was in his new apartment and had been promoted at his IT job. Andre was excelling at college. Raymond spoke too, and his words were measured and humble. Mr. Harvey, 6 months ago, I was the most hated man on the internet, and I deserved every bit of it. But what I have learned since then is that being exposed was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was living a double life, and it was destroying me from the inside. Denise forced me to be honest, and that honesty saved our family. Steve nodded and said, "Sometimes the truth hurts, but a lie will kill you." The follow-up segment also revealed something unexpected. Denise had started a financial literacy workshop at her church, specifically for married couples. She called it Open Books, and it focused on financial transparency, joint budgeting, and honest communication about money. The workshop was so popular that other churches in Memphis adopted the curriculum. Within a year, Open Books had spread to over 40 congregations across Tennessee, and Denise was invited to speak at a national financial wellness conference. Denise's story resonated deeply because it touched on something that millions of families deal with in silence. Financial infidelity, the act of hiding money, debts, or accounts from a partner, is one of the leading causes of divorce. Studies show that nearly 30% of couples have experienced some form of it. Denise gave a face and a voice to that invisible epidemic, and in doing so, she gave other women the permission and the courage to ask the hard questions in their own relationships. Steve Harvey spoke about Denise on multiple occasions after the episode. On his radio show, he described her as one of the most powerful people he had ever shared a stage with. "She did not raise her voice," Steve said. "She did not make a scene. She answered a game show question with the truth, and the truth did all the work. That is what real power looks like. Not volume, not drama, just the truth, spoken clearly at the right time by someone brave enough to say it." 2 years later, the Robinson family was featured in a documentary about financial trust in American marriages. The film included interviews with financial planners, therapists, and other couples who had faced similar situations. Denise and Raymond sat side by side for their interview, holding hands, a detail that did not go unnoticed by viewers. When asked what she would say to other women who suspect their partners are hiding money, Denise's answer was simple and direct. Ask. Do not wonder, do not hope it is not true. Ask, because the truth is always better than the lie, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Raymond, when asked the same question from the other side, was equally direct. If you are hiding money from your partner, stop right now. Because I can tell you from experience that the day the truth comes out, and it always comes out, you will wish you had been honest from the beginning. The money meant nothing compared to what I almost lost. Steve Harvey wrote about the Robinson family in his newsletter, calling their story one of the defining moments of his career. "I have been on television for a long time," he wrote, "but I have never seen courage like what Denise Robinson showed that day. She stood on my stage, looked her husband in the eye, and chose honesty over comfort. She chose her children's future over the easy silence. She chose herself, and in doing so, she changed her entire family's life." The Robinson story became required viewing in marriage counseling programs across the country. Therapists used it to illustrate the destructive power of financial secrecy and the redemptive power of radical honesty. Denise was invited to speak at colleges, women's groups, and financial planning seminars. She never charged a speaking fee. She said that if her story could help even one family avoid what she went through, it was worth every minute of her time. Years later, when people asked Denise if she regretted exposing Raymond on national television, she would smile and shake her head. "That was not my plan," she would say. "I was going to confront him after the show." But when Steve asked that question and I looked at my husband's face, I realized that the lie had been controlling all of us long enough. Sometimes the only way to break a chain is to break it in front of the whole world so you can never pretend it was not there. Denise Robinson did not just answer a game show question that day. She answered the question that millions of people are afraid to ask in their own homes. And in doing so, she proved that the truth, no matter how painful, is always the first step toward something better. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel right now. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that honesty is always stronger than secrecy. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss these powerful stories. Because on this channel, we believe that the truth is the only foundation strong enough to build a real life on. I will see you in the next one.